Close your eyes and let your mind drift back to a warm, humid Texas night in late September. It's 2013, but the world doesn't know yet that this is the final sunset of civilization as we know it. Imagine the silence of a suburban neighborhood, the kind of silence that feels heavy and expectant. You are in the Miller household. The air is still, carrying only the faint scent of old wood and the distant hum of a lawnmower from hours ago. Joel Miller, a man with tired eyes and calloused hands, is slumped on the sofa. He's exhausted from long hours at the construction site. His daughter, Sarah, enters the room. Listen to the soft thud of her footsteps on the carpet. She hands him a small box of birthday gift. Inside is a watch. Feel the cool metal of the watch face in your hand. Joel smiles, a rare moment of genuine peace. "It's nice, honey," he says, "but listen closely. The ticking of that watch is the heartbeat of a dying world. Every second that passes is 1 second closer to the end." Later that night, the atmosphere shifts. The silence is no longer peaceful. It's eerie. Sarah wakes up alone. The house is dark, illuminated only by the flickering, ghostly blue light of a television screen. News anchors are frantic, their voices trembling with a fear they can't name. Outside, a dog barks a sharp, desperate sound that cuts through the night air. Suddenly, a distant explosion rumbles through the floorboards. The vibration travels up through your feet, a low-frequency dread. Joel bursts through the door. There's blood on his shirt, but it's not his. His eyes are wide, reflecting a panic that Sarah has never seen. He's carrying a revolver. In that moment, the neighbor, Jimmy, crashes through the glass door. He isn't Jimmy anymore. His movements are jagged, his eyes glazed with a feral, mindless hunger. A gunshot rings out, deafening in the small room, followed by a heavy, hollow silence. The journey to the highway is a blur of orange fire and screaming shadows. Imagine the heat of the burning houses pressing against the car window. The smell of smoke and gasoline fills the air. Tommy is at the wheel, his knuckles white. They reach a barricade, a lone soldier standing in the headlights. The soldier receives an order through his headset. You can almost hear the static, the cold bureaucracy of death. "But there's a kid," the soldier says. Silence. Then the flashes of muzzle fire. The world slows down. Joel tumbles down the hill, clutching Sarah. He feels the damp earth against his back. He looks down, and his hands are stained dark. Sarah's breath is shallow, a soft whistling sound that gradually fades into nothingness. "Sarah, baby, look at me," Joel pleads. But her eyes are fixed on the stars. The sobbing of a broken man is the only sound left in the woods. The watch on his wrist has stopped. The old world is gone. 20 years, let that sink in. 20 years of silence, 20 years of survival, 20 years of the world slowly being swallowed by the green embrace of nature. We find ourselves in Boston, but not the city of history and scholars. This is a fortress of rust and concrete. The sun is struggling to pierce through a thick, oppressive layer of gray clouds. Feel the dampness in the air, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones and stays there. Joel is older now. His hair is graying at the temples, and his eyes carry the weight of 2 decades of loss. He wakes up in a small, cramped room. The walls are peeling, the wallpaper hanging like dead skin. There is no music here, only the distant, rhythmic thud of military boots on the pavement outside. Fedra soldiers patrol the streets with gas masks hanging from their belts, their voices distorted by megaphones. Remain calm. Obey the curfew. Safety is survival, but there is no safety here, only the illusion of it. Imagine walking through the checkpoint. The smell of garbage, unwashed bodies, and wet pavement. People are lining up for food rations, their faces hollow, their spirits broken long ago. This is the quarantine zone. A cage designed to keep the infection out, but it also keeps the soul in. Joel moves through the crowd like a ghost. He is a smuggler now, a man who knows how to find things that shouldn't exist anymore. Drugs, batteries, hope. He meets Tess. She is the flame to his cold stone. Together, they navigate the slums of the North End, chasing a man named Robert who stole what belonged to them. The chase leads them deeper into the decay. They find themselves in a warehouse where the light filters through broken skylights, illuminating clouds of dust dancing in the air. This is where they find Marlene, the leader of the Fireflies. She is wounded, leaning against a wall, her breathing heavy. She has a request, not a job, but a mission. "I need you to take something out of the city," she whispers. And then she appears. Ellie, a 14-year-old girl with a sharp tongue and eyes that have seen too much for her age. She's wearing a red shirt, her backpack slung over one shoulder. She looks at Joel with defiance, not knowing that this man will become her world. Joel looks at her and sees only a burden, a package to be delivered. He doesn't know that the watch on his wrist, the one Sarah gave him, is about to start ticking in a different way. The night falls and the rain begins to pour. It's a heavy, rhythmic downpour that masks their footsteps as they crawl through the shadows, avoiding the military spotlights. They reach the outskirts of the zone, the massive concrete walls that separate the safe world from the nightmare outside. As they slip through a secret tunnel, the air changes. It smells of damp earth and rot. For the first time in years, Joel is stepping into the wild, and beside him is a girl who holds the secret to everything. The journey has truly begun. Step out of the tunnel. Leave the smell of the military barracks behind. Now, feel the air change. It's fresh, yet carries a heavy, sweet scent of rot and blooming wildflowers. You are standing in the outskirts of Boston, but the skyscrapers don't look like buildings anymore. They look like jagged teeth, broken and decaying, leaning against each other for support. The moon is a cold silver eye watching from above, casting long distorted shadows across the flooded streets. Imagine the sound of your boots clicking against the wet asphalt. Water is everywhere. It drips from the rusted skeletons of abandoned buses. It flows through the cracks in the pavement like tiny, dark rivers. Joel, Tess, and Ellie move through this graveyard of human ambition. They climb over piles of rubble, their breath visible in the chilly night air. Ellie looks up at the leaning towers, her eyes wide with a mix of terror and wonder. "I've never been this far out," she whispers. Her voice is tiny compared to the vast silence of the dead city. But the silence is a lie. Listen closely. Beyond the wind whistling through the shattered glass of office buildings, there is a sound, a rhythmic staccato clicking. It's not mechanical, it's organic. It's the sound of a throat that has been replaced by fungus. A clicker. It stands in the shadows of an old museum, its head a blooming nightmare of fungal plates. It doesn't see you, but it hears the heartbeat of the world. Joel puts a finger to his lips. Your own heart thuds in your chest, a heavy, drum-like beat. You must be still. You must be the silence. They reach the State House, the gold dome tarnished and dull under the gray sky. This was supposed to be the meeting point. This was supposed to be where the burden ends. But as they step into the grand hall, the air is thick with the metallic tang of dried blood. The fireflies are dead. They lie scattered across the marble floor, their dreams of a cure rotting with them. The hope that brought them here evaporates in a single moment. And then the revelation. Tess, brave, stubborn Tess. She moves with a slight limp now. She shows Joel her shoulder. The wound is fresh, the fungal spores already weaving their way into her veins. Our luck had to run out sooner or later, she says, her voice steady but hollow. She knows what's coming. She knows she won't see the sunset. She begs Joel to take Ellie to Tommy's. She sees the spark in Ellie that Joel refuses to acknowledge. Military trucks are approaching. You can hear the roar of engines and the harsh shouting of soldiers outside. Tess begins to pour gasoline. The smell is sharp, stinging your nostrils. She strikes a lighter. The small flame dances in her eyes, one last bit of light in a darkening world. Joel grabs Ellie's hand, dragging her away as she screams for Tess. They run into the rain, and behind them, a dull roar of an explosion marks the end of an era. Tess is gone. The mission is no longer a job. It's a promise made to a ghost. The rain has stopped, but the world remains soaked, dripping with the remnants of a storm. Joel and Ellie are walking through the woods on the outskirts of a small town called Lincoln. Imagine the sound of dry leaves and damp twigs snapping under their boots. The air here is different from the city. It smells of pine, wet earth, and something metallic, the scent of survival. Ellie is trying to whistle. It's a clumsy, breathy sound that cuts through the oppressive quiet. Joel doesn't tell her to stop. Perhaps in some hidden corner of his heart, he finds comfort in that small, human noise. They reach the town's borders. Lincoln is a ghost town, frozen in time. White picket fences are overgrown with ivy, and colorful flower beds have been replaced by wild, choking weeds. But this town isn't just empty. It's defended. Bill lives here. Bill, a man who decided that the only way to live in a broken world was to build a fortress of solitude. As they move through the streets, you see them. The traps. Tripwires stretched across alleyways like spider webs. rigged to shotguns and nail bombs. The wind catches a small piece of cloth tied to a wire, making it dance. One wrong step, and the silence of the town is shattered by fire and lead. Joel moves with the practiced grace of a predator. He sees the wires before Ellie does. He guides her, his hand briefly touching her shoulder, a gesture of protection he's still trying to deny. They enter a record store. The dust motes dance in the shafts of golden afternoon light. Imagine the smell of old vinyl and moldy paper. Ellie picks up a magazine, her curiosity a stark contrast to the grim reality around them. In this town, every house tells a story of a family that didn't make it. You see a child's bicycle lying in a driveway, rusted orange, half buried in the mud. It's a monument to a life that ended 20 years ago. The meeting with Bill is anything but friendly. He is a man made of scars and paranoia. He tackles Joel, his eyes wild, his machete gleaming in the shadows. To Bill, any living soul is a threat, a liability, but they need a car. They need a way to reach the horizon. Bill's warehouse is a labyrinth of madness and mechanical genius. He speaks to himself, his voice a gravelly murmur. He lost his partner, Frank, a long time ago. Now, he only speaks to the ghosts and the traps he sets. A partner is just something to eventually get you killed, he growls. Joel listens, seeing a dark reflection of what he might become if he keeps his heart locked behind iron doors. They fight their way through the high school, a place once filled with the laughter of teenagers, now a dark hive for the infected. The hallways are carpeted with fungal spores. Every breath feels heavy, like breathing in history itself. They find the car, but the price is high. They find Frank, or what's left of him, swinging from a ceiling fan in a quiet suburban home. The note he left is a jagged blade of truth. Bill reads it, his face a mask of stone, but his hands tremble just a fraction. This is the lesson of Lincoln. Loneliness keeps you safe, but it also turns you into a ghost before you're even dead. As they push the truck down the street, the engine finally roars to life, a mechanical scream that wakes the dead. They leave the town behind, but the silence of Bill's eyes stays with them. The hum of the truck's engine is a steady, vibrating rhythm that fills the cabin. For a moment, as you watch the ruined highway stretch out before you, it feels almost peaceful. Joel is at the wheel, his eyes fixed on the road, while Ellie flips through a comic book she found in Billstown. The wind rushes past the windows, carrying the scent of dry asphalt and old-world rubber. This is the heartbeat of a journey, the transition from one nightmare to the next. But in this world, peace is a fragile glass that shatters without warning. As they enter Pittsburgh, the road is blocked by a wall of abandoned cars. Rusting hulks of metal, frozen in a permanent traffic jam of 20 years. A man stumbles into the middle of the street, clutching his stomach, crying out for help. He looks pathetic, broken, but Joel doesn't slow down. He sees the lie in the man's posture. "He ain't even hurt," Joel growls, his voice dropping into a low, dangerous rumble. Suddenly, a brick crashes through the windshield. The glass explodes into 1,000 diamond-like shards, glittering in the air before they fall. The truck roars, swerves, and crashes through a storefront. The silence that follows is thick with dust and the smell of spilled gasoline. This is Pittsburgh, a city where the infected are secondary to the hunters' human beings who have discarded their humanity to survive. Imagine the sound of heavy boots running across the pavement, the shouting of men who see Joel and Ellie not as people, but as stock. Joel is pinned down, a cold blade pressed against his throat. You can hear his desperate, ragged breathing. And then, a small, sharp sound, a gunshot. Ellie has stepped across the line. She has taken a life to save his. The silence that follows is heavier than any explosion. It's the sound of a childhood ending, right there on the dirty floor of a ruined shop. They move deeper into the city, navigating through a flooded hotel where the water is dark and stagnant, smelling of ancient rot and whetstone. The atmosphere is suffocatingly quiet. You can hear the distant drip of water from the ceiling, a rhythmic plink, plink, plink that echoes through the empty lobby. They climb up the elevator shafts, their hands gripping cold, greasy cables. In these quiet moments, the bond between them changes. Joel no longer sees just a package. He sees a girl who is terrified, but won't back down. He gives her a rifle. It's a heavy, cold piece of steel, but in her hands, it's a symbol of trust. Make them count, he says. His voice is no longer a command. It's a recognition. The city is a labyrinth of shadows and snipers. Imagine the sun setting behind the jagged skyline, painting the ruins in a blood-orange hue. They find themselves on the rooftops, looking down at the hunters' patrols below. The flickering of their campfires looks like tiny, malevolent stars in the dark. Joel and Ellie move like ghosts, whispering in the dark, their fates now irrevocably intertwined. They aren't just traveling together anymore. They are surviving together. As they reach the bridge, hoping for an escape, they realize the city has claws, and it doesn't want to let them go. The weight of the world is pressing down, but in the darkness, they have each other's breath to follow. The night in Pittsburgh is long, but they are no longer alone. Imagine the tension in the room as Joel stares down Henry, another survivor, another protector. But Henry has Sam, a younger brother, with wide, innocent eyes that haven't yet been completely extinguished by the world. They decide to move together. 4 souls drifting through the concrete arteries of a dead city, searching for a way out. The air is cold, and the sound of the river rushing beneath the bridge is a constant low-frequency hum that vibrates in your chest. They retreat into the sewers, descending into the underworld of the city where the sunlight cannot reach. Feel the dampness of the walls, the slippery moss beneath your boots. It smells of stagnant water and old, forgotten echoes. This place was once a sanctuary. You can see the remains of a community-abandoned classrooms with colorful drawings on the floor, small cots lined up in rows. It's a silent museum of a failed attempt to build a new world. Ellie and Sam find a soccer ball. Listen to the sound of it bouncing off the stone walls, thump, thump, thump. For a moment, they aren't survivors. They are just children playing in the dark. Joel and Henry watch them, their faces softened by the ghost of a world that no longer exists. But the sewers hold secrets. The suburbs of the underground are infested. The clicking of the infected echoes through the pipes, a metallic and haunting sound that makes the hair on your neck stand up. They run, they fight, they escape the darkness only to find a different kind of nightmare in the suburbs outside the city. The sun is high now, beating down on the rows of identical houses, their paint peeling like old skin. Sniper fire cracks through the air, a sharp whip-like sound that shatters the afternoon peace. They make it to a safe house. The adrenaline fades, replaced by a heavy, soul-deep exhaustion. Ellie and Sam sit on the floor, talking about what they miss, about the dreams they still have. Sam asks if the people who turn are still in there somewhere. It's a question that hangs in the air, heavy and unanswered. Joel looks at Henry, a silent acknowledgement of the burden they both carry. They sleep, but the peace is a lie. Morning comes with a scream. The virus doesn't care for brotherhood. Sam has turned. The small boy with the soccer ball is gone, replaced by a mindless, snarling creature. Henry is forced to do the unthinkable. The sound of the gunshot is small, but it echoes forever. Medin, it's my fault, Henry whispers, his eyes losing their light before he turns the gun on himself. Silence returns to the room, but it's a cold, hollow silence. Joel and Ellie stand over the graves, the wind rustling the dry grass. There are no words left. They turn their backs on the city of Pittsburgh, carrying 2 more ghosts with them as they head toward the mountains. The landscape is changing. The jagged skyline of Pittsburgh has been replaced by the majestic, snow-capped peaks of Wyoming. Imagine the crispness of the air here. It's cold, pure, and smells of pine needles and oncoming winter. The sound of the rushing river is no longer hidden in sewers. It's a powerful, roaring force of nature that guides Joel and Ellie toward the hydroelectric dam. For the first time, the world doesn't feel like a cage. It feels vast, beautiful, and indifferent to the suffering of men. They reach the gates, and there he is, Tommy, Joel's brother. The silence between them as they embrace is thick with 20 years of unspoken apologies and shared trauma. Tommy has built something impossible, a community. Jackson, a place where children play in the streets, where there is electricity, and where the smell of baking bread drifts through the air. For Joel, this is a ghost of the life he once had. For Ellie, it's a fairy tale she never dared to believe in. But underneath the surface, the tension remains. Joel wants to leave Ellie here. He wants to pass the burden to his brother, fearing that he will eventually fail her just as he failed Sarah. The confrontation happens in an old, abandoned farmhouse. The wood is rotting, the wallpaper peeling in the autumn wind. Ellie has run away, sensing Joel's plan to abandon her. When he finds her, she is sitting in a room upstairs, sunlight filtering through the dust in the air. Everyone I have cared about has either died or left me. Everyone, except for fucking you, she screams. Her voice cracks with a raw, primal fear of loneliness. Joel stands like a statue of ice. He brings up Sarah. The name hangs in the air like a cold blade. "You're right," he says, his voice a low, hollow growl. "You're not my daughter, and I sure as hell ain't your dad." The silence that follows is devastating. It's the sound of a bridge burning. But as they ride back toward the town, something shifts. In the quiet rhythm of the horse's hooves against the dirt, Joel realizes that the hole in his heart cannot be filled by running away. He sees Ellie not as a task, but as his life. He decides to stay. They leave the safety of Jackson behind, heading toward the university in Colorado, chasing the ghost of a cure. The air gets colder. The snow begins to fall, and for the first time, they are riding together, not out of obligation, but out of a bond that has finally, painfully, been accepted. The air in Colorado is thin, biting, and smells of ancient ice. Joel and Ellie arrive at the University of Eastern Colorado, a place that was once a sanctuary for science, now a mausoleum of broken glass and rusted memories. Imagine the sound of Callus's hooves, their horse echoing through the empty courtyards. Clop, clop, clop. It's a lonely rhythm that underscores the vastness of the abandonment. The yellow autumn leaves are being buried under a sudden, silent blanket of snow. They search the laboratories, looking for the fireflies, but all they find are monkeys and the recorded voices of dead men. The hope of a quick cure is fading, replaced by the reality of a world that has moved on. And then the silence is shattered. Bandits, raiders, men who see others only as resources to be consumed. In the struggle, Joel falls. A fall that feels like it's happening in slow motion. The sound of a metal rod piercing flesh a wet, sickening thud. The world spins. Joel's vision blurs, the white snow turning a dark velvet red. Ellie's voice is the only thing keeping him from the darkness. "Get up, Joel. Please, get up." Her scream is raw, a jagged edge of panic in the freezing air. Imagine the weight of Joel's body as Ellie tries to drag him to the horse. The smell of copper and cold sweat. They escape, but the Joel who leaves the university is a broken man, drifting in and out of consciousness. The winter settles in, cruel and indifferent. Now the perspective shifts. Imagine the woods in the dead of winter. Everything is white, a blinding, silent void. Ellie is alone, hunting a deer to keep Joel alive. The sound of her bowstring drawing back a creaking wooden tension, and then the whistle of the arrow. She is no longer the girl who told jokes from a book. She is a predator, a guardian. She meets a man named David. He speaks with a soft, calm voice that hides a jagged darkness beneath. He offers medicine in exchange for the deer. But in this world, nothing is free. The silence of the winter forest is a predator itself, waiting for the weak to stumble. Ellie stands tall, her breath a white plume in the air, guarding the man who became her father in everything but blood. The winter is no longer a backdrop, it is a monster. Imagine the blizzard in Colorado, a white wall of screaming wind and ice that bites into your skin like 1,000 needles. Ellie is running. Her breath comes in ragged, frozen gasps. Behind her, the shadows of David's men move through the storm like wolves. She has been captured. Imagine the smell of the place where they take her. A cold, metallic scent of rusted cages and something else. Something sweet and sickly that makes her stomach turn. It's the smell of a town that has turned to the unthinkable to survive. David sits across from her in a dark cell. His voice is still soft, still calm, but now it feels like a snake sliding over cold stone. He speaks of luck and will, trying to convince Ellie that they are the same two survivors in a dead world. But as the firelight flickers in his eyes, Ellie sees the truth. He isn't a leader. He is a predator who wears the mask of a savior. When he reaches for her hand, the silence in the room is electric, charged with a primal revulsion. Ellie breaks his finger, a sharp crack that echoes like a gunshot in the small space. The mask slips. The monster is revealed. Meanwhile, Joel wakes up. His body is a map of pain, but his mind is focused on one thing: Ellie. Imagine the sound of his heavy, stumbling footsteps in the snow as he searches for her. He is a force of nature, a ghost driven by a singular purpose. He finds David's men, and the interrogation that follows is silent, brutal, and efficient. Joel has become the man he was 20 years ago, a man who will do anything to protect what is his. The snow is stained red once more, but this time it is not his blood. The climax happens at a burning steakhouse. The world outside is white and frozen, but inside, everything is orange, gold, and searing heat. Imagine the roar of the flames devouring the wooden rafters, the crackle of burning curtains. Ellie is trapped, crawling through the shadows as David stalks her like an animal. The sound of his boots on the charred floor, crunch, crunch, is the only thing she can hear over the heartbeat in her ears. She is small, she is tired, but she is a wolf. When the blade finally finds its mark, the world disappears. There is no more David, no more fire, no more winter. There is only the rhythmic, frantic strike of the machete. Ellie is lost in a sea of red until a pair of strong, familiar hands grab her. "It's me. It's me," Joel whispers. He calls her baby girl, the name he once reserved only for Sarah. In that burning room, the last remnant of the girl Ellie used to be is consumed by the flames, and she is reborn in the arms of the man who would burn the world down to keep her safe. Spring has finally arrived in Salt Lake City, but it's a quiet, heavy spring. The snow has melted, leaving behind a world of vibrant greens and pale grays. Imagine the smell of the air-fresh rain on warm concrete and the sweet, wild scent of overgrown gardens. Joel and Ellie walk through the highway ruins, but something is different. Ellie is quiet. The fire from the winter has left her eyes, replaced by a distant, haunted look. She is physically there, but her mind is still in that burning restaurant. And then, a moment of pure magic. In the middle of the dead city, they find them. Giraffes. Imagine the sight of these graceful, long-necked creatures wandering through the ruins of a stadium, eating leaves from the trees that have reclaimed the concrete. The sound of their slow, heavy breathing and the gentle rustle of leaves. Ellie's face lights up for the first time in months. She reaches out, her hand touching the soft, warm fur of a giraffe. For a fleeting second, the infection, the hunters, and the pain disappear. There is only life's stubborn, beautiful life. "It's okay, Joel," she whispers. She has decided that whatever comes next, it's worth it. They reach the hospital. The fireflies are there, and the dream of a cure is finally within reach. But the price is Ellie. To save the world, they must take the one thing that has saved Joel's soul. Imagine the cold, sterile light of the hospital corridors, the smell of antiseptic and old blood. Joel stands in a room with Marlene, the weight of his choice pressing down on him like a mountain. "Find someone else," he growls, but there is no one else. The hospital becomes a battlefield of shadows and red emergency lights. Joel moves through the hallways not as a hero, but as a father who has lost everything once and refuses to lose it again. The sound of his footsteps thud, thud, thud is a drumbeat of war. He reaches the operating room. The silence there is clinical, terrifying. He picks up Ellie's unconscious body. She is light, so small against the vast darkness of the world. He carries her out, past the bodies, past Marlene, past the chance for a cure. He chooses the girl. He chooses the love that broke him. As they drive back toward Jackson, the sun rises over the mountains, painting the world in gold and hope. Ellie wakes up. She asks what happened, and Joel looks her in the eye and tells the biggest lie in human history. "They stopped looking for a cure," he says. His voice is steady, but his heart is a storm. They reach the outskirts of Tommy's town. Ellie stops him. She tells him about Riley, about Tess, about everyone she lost. She asks him to swear that everything he said about the fireflies was true. Joel doesn't blink. "I swear," he says. Ellie looks at him for a long, silent moment. The wind rustles the grass. "Okay," she says. And as the screen fades to black, the silence that remains is the sound of a world saved by a lie, and a man who would do it all again.